Does the collective have more rights than the individual? Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Bob Auden, your host for Libertarian Viewpoint. Libertarians believe in liberty, freedom tempered by human rights. How could anyone have a problem with that? This show gives you, the viewer, the non-government liberty solutions the media refuses to tell you about. Then you can see for yourself what the best choices are. The following is the last part of a speech by Ben Swann at the Libertarian Party of Minnesota State Convention on how to sell people on the idea that liberty is always the best option. Here is journalist Ben Swann to explain. He is followed by an 8-minute video explaining the philosophy of liberty.
How do you win when it comes to these ideas of liberty here in Minnesota? How do you specifically do that? Well, a couple things. First of all, we talk about who we are. You do not know who you are, meaning you do not know why you believe what you believe. You need to figure that out before you talk to anybody about your beliefs. Because too often in the political spectrum, we have the argument of who we're not. Right? I'm not like those people. And I don't believe what they believe. I'm not for this, and I'm not for that. That's what the whole 2012 election was about. When it came down to Romney and Obama, which were the same guy practically, right? The argument among their supporters was not who they were, it was who they weren't. So the Obama supporters were like, well, I'm not like that rich white guy who thinks that 47% of the country is against him and you know, talks about NASCAR when he talks about owning the team, right? The Romney supporters were not Romney supporters. They were the I don't like Obama people. And so 50%, I told you at the beginning, 50% of the American electorate is no longer associated with those parties. Why? Because people are tired of being told who they are not. People want to stand for something. So what do you stand for? We need to talk about who we are. We need to talk about jury nullification. And I greatly appreciated Judge, was it Swann? What's his name? What he had to say today. I really do. I appreciated the fact that he came in from a legal perspective, from a judge's perspective. And I hope that you guys really embraced what he had to say. I really do. Because too often when we talk about these issues, we do so in an echo chamber. Right? So it's, oh yeah, jury nullification is great. Oh yeah, it's terrific. Oh yeah, I like it too. And so we get all excited, and we're getting worked into a lather about how great jury nullification is. And people on the outside of that say, well, it's not that great. And here's some examples. And I thought he did a good job of explaining his position. Did I agree with him? No. I did. And I did. And I'm going to tell you why I did. Let me tell you why I did not agree. Because, and you were the trouble causer. I didn't agree when he said that the jury doesn't have the right to know. Because his position was that the juror would try to, too often, take, the law into their own hands, and bad people would go free. And I accept that that is a very real concern. And it is a real concern. I think ignorant people will say, that's not going to happen. It will happen. It absolutely will happen. But I think with the lapse in his argument came back to this idea. Not every law, just because it is law, is just. And so when we talk about jury nullification, I think we need to talk about it within certain confines. Okay? The confines specifically, and I think this is the point you were making, the confines specifically of no victim, no crime. And so when we say that if someone believes that they have the right to smoke marijuana and they go into a courtroom, do I nullify? His example was a man who thinks that he can rape his own wife. Do I nullify? Well, for me, that's really easy. If there's no victim, there's no crime. In one of those examples, there's not a victim. In the other example, there is a victim. I think that's an easy argument to have. And I think when you talk about it to people, accept that it's not all cut and dry lollipops and rainbows on one side and death and destruction on the other, but that we are a moral people. Even if you don't have any kind of religious belief at all, we are a moral people. And so when we talk about these issues, they're not agnostic. It's about morality. Morality and conscience mean that I am not going to allow a guy to rape his own wife, even for the sake of taking a stand for jury nullification. I hope you wouldn't either. But conscience also says, I'm not going to send somebody off to prison because they have a plant in their house and I don't like them using it. If they didn't harm someone, then it's not a crime. No victim, no crime. So for me, I think that's what we have to do in terms of explaining jury nullification to people in ways that really sink into them. And again, these are emotional issues with people, so you have to be able to deal with people who get emotional. Local elections. I'll tell you guys something. How many of you voted in 2012 in the primary? Okay. I'm going to guess some of you voted in the Republican primary. Some of you thought you were going to help Ron Paul get elected to office. And then tomorrow is going to be amazing. You're lying if you say you did. I'm going to tell you something. If you are focused on the national stuff, on House and Senate races and on the run for the White House, and you're just obsessed with getting your guy or your girl in there, and you think that liberty in America is going to change because of something that happened in Washington, you're sadly mistaken. That's not where change is going to happen. The most local level you can get down to, and that's why, again, this is why I like jury nullification, because there's nothing more local to me than you sitting on a jury with someone in your own community. You have one vote, and it desperately matters. So take seriously your responsibility. But when it comes to local elections, it's the same thing. Listen, if you're out campaigning in a presidential election and you're putting those yard signs out and you're making all this noise and you don't even know who's running for city council, shame on you. Shame on you. If you don't know who's running for sheriff in your county, come on. Come on. The highest ranking public official in any county is the sheriff. This whole situation that's taken place in Nevada with Black Monday would not be happening if they had a constitutional sheriff. And by the way, there are examples across the West. The BLM has done this many, many times. There are examples where sheriffs from Idaho, from Utah, and from Nevada have come together and run the feds out of their counties in an effort to protect ranchers. Everybody's not the first. If you do not know who is running for your sheriff in this particular election cycle, if they're up for election, then shame on you. You need to find out who it is. You need to find out whether or not they are a constitutional sheriff, and if they are not, you need to run someone against them. You need to pick someone to run. And by the way, as you probably know, a sheriff is an elected position. You do not have to be law enforcement. I would recommend you do not get someone who is law enforcement. You find someone who believes in the Constitution, who believes in rule of law, who believes in the rights of the individual. You run their butt for sheriff. And the good thing is, so few people turn out for those elections, it only takes a few of you to make it happen. It's not like there's a long line of people lining up to go vote for sheriff. But it's such an important election. So in local elections, it's where it's got to happen. You've got to focus on them. You've got to focus on your statewide elections. You've got to get out there and work, because that's where the change is going to happen. If you get the most liberty-oriented president in U.S. history elected, if they're truly a believer in liberty and limited government, guess what? They can do almost nothing. Because they will actually have to restrict themselves from the overstepping of presidential power. So basically, for 4 years, you're going to limit damage done. You're not going to reclaim liberty. And then the media is going to sell them as a do-nothing president, and they will probably be out in the next cycle, replaced by either a neocon or a progressive who's going to step in and wants to do lots of things. So don't get distracted by that other stuff. I know it's sexy to focus on big stuff, but that's not where the change is. And then finally, building coalitions. And this is the most important thing that I'm going to tell you. As libertarians, again, as I said, you don't own the patent or the copyright on liberty, right? It's a human ideal. But the only way that you're going to be successful as a party and as individuals, and I say successful, I don't mean winning, because winning is not success. Success is when you actually change things to restore natural and individual rights that already belong to people, merely pointed out by the Constitution. But the only way that happens is if we build coalitions. What do those coalitions look like? Well, they look like a mess. That's what they look like. Libertarians, folks from Occupy Wall Street, the anti-war progressives. How many of you know the anti-war movement in America has basically fizzled away, right? Remember Cindy Sheehan? Remember how she was out there making all that noise in front of the Crawford Ranch with her signs, and she was so against Bush? What happened to her? Where'd you go, Cindy Sheehan? You know, I talked to Angela Keaton from antiwar.com, and she says, I'll tell you what happened to Cindy Sheehan. She didn't go anywhere. The media abandoned her. Because as soon as they were done with her serving their purpose on the left, they let Cindy Sheehan go. She actually ran for president with Roseanne Barr. How many of you knew that? 2012. Yeah. So she didn't go anywhere. The anti-war progressives didn't go anywhere. The media moved away from them. The left moved away from them because their guy was in office. And you're not going to embarrass our guy. So you need to build coalitions with them. Veterans, another group that you got to build coalitions with. I mean, who would think Occupy Wall Street and veterans could ever work together? But they sure can when you talk about individual rights. You know, we talk about all these wars that are going on around the world, and there are some libertarians, and I know you're not among them, who are very down on military, because we almost have this military worship concept in our society right now, and that's no good. That's no good. But at the same time, military veterans are killing themselves at the most astonishing rate in U.S. history. Right now, there are more active duty soldiers committing suicide than dying in combat. Now, statistics lie, right? So that statistic, you say, well, but what does that mean? Well, consider this. We're engaged in the largest number of active either wars or conflicts ever in U.S. history simultaneously. So it's not like we're in a time of peace, and there are more soldiers taking their own lives than dying in combat. That should give you pause. 50% of the U.S. homeless population are veterans. So when we talk about war, it's not just the people on the other side of those bombs and missiles who are casualties of the war. We have an entire generation of American men and women who are coming back home who are also casualties, who recognize how their government has used them, who props them up during State of the Union speech. Let's all clap, yeah, for that guy up there because he's a war hero. We blew his brains out. And then we have veterans who are dying waiting to be able to be seen in hospitals. So build coalitions with veterans because they recognize what a lot of these issues actually look like. Evangelicals and Tea Party conservatives. Listen, the evangelical movement in America is ripe for this. Now, I understand there's a lot of social conservatives who want nothing to do with you because you offend their sensibilities. I also believe that a lot of those folks have been brainwashed into a fascist way of thinking. Some of them are good friends of mine. And I talk with them and I say, let me just give you some quotes. And I give them the Mussolini quote. What do you think about this? And they say, yeah, that sounds great. And then I tell them, well, it's actually not Republican, it's fascist. Because they don't like the person. But there are a lot of evangelicals out there who I truly believe this. If you would confront them in a teaching way, not in a harsh way, confront them with the realities of our drone strike policies, confront them with the realities of people dying from cancer who can't access a plant. If you would be able to deal with them, not as a mass, but as individuals, they will come over to the liberty point of view because in their heart, their religion is actually one of liberty and individual freedom and of free choice, the ability to choose for yourself. But they've been brainwashed by the religious right into a fascist point of view. Disenfranchised, anarchists, millennial independents. Listen, you have this incredible number of people that you can reach out to who are right and who are ready. And that also includes that little group up there, conspiracy theorists. Don't forget those guys. They're a bunch of many people, aren't they? Yeah. I'm going to tell you, because every group I speak to who are libertarians, I got to punch you in the kidneys just a little bit. There is a movement within the Libertarian Party to say, you know, we really want to become more mainstream. And in order to become more mainstream, we got to stop talking about weird stuff. All right? You know it's true, right? And so they want to get away from all the weird people. But in reality, every great movement in human history has begun on the fringes. So all these groups that I'm sharing with you, there are people within those groups who have been pushed out of the mainstream. And they've been on the edge. And they have no place where people actually respect them or treat them with dignity. And so those people suddenly came along during the Ron Paul movement and became a force. Now what I would tell you tonight is that Ron Paul did not go find those people. Those people found Ron Paul. They came and found him. And because he accepted them, right, didn't judge them, wasn't cruel to them, had his arms open to them, they embraced him, and he was able to ride this movement forward. I think the Republican liberty movement is about to hurt itself terribly because it's ready to reject a lot of these groups. It's got to find mainstream, so it's pushing away a lot of those people. I think they're going to wish they had. As a party, the Libertarian Party, I would encourage you not to fall for the same tactic. Do not push away people just because they are different or strange, or because their views on things seem outside of the mainstream. They should be. They should be. The beauty of having to build a coalition is simply this: it will keep you honest. The moment you have mainstream power, the moment you become the mainstream movement, you're compromised. But as long as you have to be a coalition movement, it requires you to compromise with other people, and to work with them, and to care about them, and to treat them with respect. You can't just walk all over them like they do in the Republican and Democratic parties. I told you at the beginning that for 1,000 years, this year, liberty has been rising around the world. Colonialism, imperialism, slavery, monarchies, theocracies, it's nothing new. Nothing that we face right now in this country is new. Fascism isn't new. Since the beginning of human history, there has been the desire for one man to rule over another. That is just a part of human nature. And just so long as there has been the desire for one man to rule over another, there has been the desire of people to be free and to live free. Last thing I would share with you, I end with this. Marcus Aurelius once said this. He said, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." In this moment, that is the liberty moment in America, I truly believe this is an incredible moment in human history. I really do. When the founders and framers set out on this experiment to create a free nation, it wasn't based on the fact they all woke up one day and said, "I have this thought of freedom." Right? It was the thought and the desire and the crafting towards freedom that had been going on for 1,000 years. At their time, 800, give or take. Today, we are the recipients through this American experience of the greatest amount of human freedom that any nation has ever known. Now, we've lost a lot of that, and you guys have talked about that a lot this weekend. But it is ours to regain. It is ours to seize control. But it won't be handed to you. You're going to have to fight for it, and you know that. Now look around the room, and look at all the weirdos in here. Because the people next to you, right? The people next to you, especially you. I want you to see what all these people look like. The people next to you aren't necessarily the people you would call friends. They aren't necessarily the people that you would like. But the good thing is he didn't say, like the people with whom fate brings you together. Now I absolutely believe, with all of my heart, that you did not choose, nor did I. You did not choose to be born in this century. You did not choose even to be awake at this time. However you came to your awakening to the idea of liberty, I'm a recovering neocon, but however you came, I have a problem. However you came to that awakening, however that happened for you, I'm willing to bet it wasn't because you suddenly had an epiphany, but because of something that someone else has done or groundwork they have laid. For whatever reason, you have been found in this moment, and for some reason you have been drawn together with the people around you. And you can call that fate, as Marcus Aurelius did. You can call that God. You can call that nature's God, whatever you want to call it. But regardless, you have been drawn together. You do not get to choose the people with whom you work. The only thing that you can do is choose to respect them, to treat them with love and with dignity and with care. Because one day, when you have the power, you're going to be expected to continue to love and to care for them. Thank you guys very much.
We have run out of time. Remember, positive liberty-orientated change can happen through self-education, emphasizing local elections, building coalitions, and using jury nullification. The following is an 8-minute video called The Philosophy of Liberty. It asks the basic question, do you own yourself? If you believe in the individual, you might be a libertarian. To find out, Take the world's smallest political quiz at www.theadvocates.org. Liberty is always the best choice. If anyone in government can prove otherwise, I challenge them to speak up. To view past shows, go to the Libertarian Viewpoint channel on YouTube. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for other shows on Libertarian Viewpoint and Live Free.